Hola mis amigos, we're making peanut butter. For today's recipe, we will be checking out this professional blender by AICOOK. And if you remember, AICOOK was also the company whose waffle maker we checked out, as well as the popcorn machine, both of which were very quality items, as well as this blender. This blender is a 1200 watt blender, and it has 9 speeds as well as 4 programs, and the 4 programs include crushed ice, smoothies, juice, and nut butter. And this is actually what has me excited today, because obviously it's a blender, it blends things, it works. However, I am excited about the nut butter program, so that is exactly what we are going to be using. And this is a pretty tall blender, as you can see. It is quite out of frame, but here is the complete canister. And the lid is very well put together. This is actually the lid. Here is a handle, and it also has an exhaust cover, which of course from here you would be streaming in any other ingredients, or you would just close it and lock it like so. And there's the underside of it. So it's basically a really souped up blender lid. So I like it, and it feels really good and good quality. And I also like the blue color. I'm not sure that this comes in other colors just yet, but I will have the information below for you to check it out. But I am really happy to have this different color. All right, so we are going to be making homemade peanut butter. And first, we are going to go ahead and get our blender nice and clean. And they do give you instructions as well to take care of that. So we are going to fill this up with 1 liter of water and add about a drop or 2 of dish soap. And then we will be pressing the pulse/clean option until everything is nice and clean. We're gonna pour the water out, give that a good rinse, and then we will return to get started with our peanut butter. Okay, I have plugged up the device and added the water and a few drops of dish soap. So let's go ahead and check out the cleaning cycle. I'm just going to twist the lid on here. And it actually senses that the lid was on, because before it showed that there was an error. So as soon as I put that lid on and locked it, everything is ready to go. So that's pretty cool that it can detect that. So we're going to hit the pulse and clean button, and we're also going to be able to hear exactly how loud this machine is with just water. So let's check that out. Oh, I should probably turn it on. And now let's try. And as soon as you let it go, it is done, because that is the pulse. So you are in complete control of this button. So you do need to completely keep your finger on it while it's running. But as you can see, that was pretty direct, pretty straightforward, and pretty quiet for a blender. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse all this out, get rid of all the suds, and then we will be back to make our nut butter. We are back with our nice and clean blender, so we are now ready to start making our nut butter. Now this recipe can be anywhere between 1 and 3 ingredients depending on your preference, and those ingredients will be, of course, your nuts, which today we are using peanut butter, and next would be an oil, and third would be a sweetener. So of course those 2 are optional, depends on consistency and taste. So I am going to be using all 3 today. And of course, if you're on a low carb diet, you're probably going to want that extra fat. So you're going to be adding about a tablespoon or so of the oil. Now, as far as the recipe goes, the measurements, it's pretty much up to you how much you decide to use. You're going to end up with about 1/3 of the peanut butter from the nuts that you put in. So for example, I am going to be using 3 cups of roasted peanuts, and that should come out to be about 1 cup of creamy peanut butter. Of course, it depends on what consistency you are going for. So if yours is crunchy, then you're going to end up with a little bit more volume. So we're going to go ahead and add those. And you can, of course, use salted or unsalted. If you go with the unsalted and you decide you need some salt, then you can add about 1/2 teaspoon or so of salt to this. And before adding anything else, I am going to go ahead and get started here. So we're going to just put our lid on and twist that. There we go. And now, just like before, it recognizes that we now have the lid on. And then we're going to turn the device on and move over to the nut butter program. And then we just press the on-off button and it should get started with the process. All right, so it looks like we have half of our peanuts started here. At this point, I did go ahead and stop the machine because I am going to add my oil. So here I have 1 tablespoon of MCT oil along with 1 teaspoon of honey, because that is my preferred sweetener, but you can use erythritol or whatever sweetener you decide. And we're just going to pour this straight through. And then we are going to go ahead and start that nut butter cycle again. And as you can see, it's pretty smart. It pulses on its own and has its own timed cycle. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're over at nut butter and we're just going to press the on. 3 minutes. Here is what we have so far. Right now it's a pretty chunky consistency. I did stop it halfway through to go ahead and use a spatula to stir it up a bit because I felt it needed a little bit of help because it was sort of taking its time, but it does have a timer. So I did go ahead and just, as much as I wanted to kind of interfere again, I let it just do its thing and go through its cycle. And then it did end up getting us a nice and chunky peanut butter, but I am about to run it again because I'm going for smooth. But I do want to go ahead and show you where we are at right now. So that is pretty chunky. You probably can't tell so much the consistency here, but definitely not all the way smooth, but the oils have started to release, so now it is starting to blend a little bit better. So I'm going to run this through one more cycle and then we should be good to go. So on, over to nut butter, and then on again. We are back and now we have exactly the consistency that I was looking for. This is nice, smooth, and creamy. There we go. That is what we're looking for. But again, it was just fine before, so it really depends on your preference. But that is A-okay for me. So I'm going to go ahead and jar this and see how much we ended up with. All right, so I have jarred this up. This is actually a 1/2 pint jar, also known as 8 ounces, and we actually have a whole lot more peanut butter in the blender. I could probably fill another at least half of this, so we would probably end up with 12 to 16 ounces of peanut butter from those 3 cups that we used. So you just want to be mindful of that when you are deciding on the measurements for your recipe. And this is going to be great for any nut butter, cashew butter, almond butter, you name it. As long as you have the nuts, you are good to go. And this device clearly gets the job done. So I just wanted to show you the official amount that we ended up with. And we ended up with almost a full pint. So 16 ounces just about, which would mean that we ended up with 2/3 of what we put in. So that's just something to consider. And it is nice and warm right now, so I'm not going to put the lids on it just yet, because during the whole blending process, it does warm it up, and that does kind of help to emulsify everything. So we're just going to let this sit with the lids probably half on for a little bit, and then we can close this up and we are good to go to enjoy our peanut butter. Thank you to AICOOK for another fantastic product, and we do have more coming soon from them, so definitely stay tuned, and I will have the information in the description box below for you to check out this amazing blender. Peanut butter, enjoy, and I'll see you at the dinner table.